Kendrick Lamar is, in my opinion, the most influential rapper of the 21st century. He's a generational artist that's rightfully celebrated, and even though he's quieted down on albums in the past few years, he's still making some big time impacts. As a hip hop and as a music fan, it's been a massive privilege watching Kendrick Lamar emerge and evolve over the past 15 years, and he's already one of the GOATs. So this video is dedicated to ranking Kendrick Lamar's entire studio album discography. I even included Untitled Unmastered on here, which many people consider just a compilation album, but I don't care, it counts. So I'll be ranking a total of 6 albums. The rankings are my opinion only, so if you disagree, please leave me a comment telling me how much I suck. In last place at number 6 is Damn. Now I want to start off by saying that I don't think this is a bad album, I just think it's a little bit mid. After some of the work he had done in his career to this point, everyone's expectations were super lofty. This was also his first album following To Pimp a Butterfly, so the bar was set astronomically high. I do really like the leading songs off of this album. While it wasn't actually a lead single, DNA has been, is, and always will be fire. Humble is a little ridiculous at times, but it's still solid. Loyalty is decent, but I think the Rihanna feature surprised a lot of purists, but it's still good. The rest of this is pretty hit or miss, really alternating between average and good throughout, and I'd consider 3 of the last 4 tracks great, especially Duckworth. I think we were just all surprised by Damn and were expecting something else in many cases. Kendrick hasn't shown us yet that he has the ability to put out a bad record, and this thing has actually aged surprisingly well. It just happens to be the weakest in a very strong catalog. Number 5 is our previously mentioned compilation album, Untitled Unmastered. This is insanely good for a collection of songs that were mostly outtakes from To Pimp a Butterfly. The songs are all very jazzy and mellow, and there were some surprisingly cool guest appearances on here. Since the album has a bit of a neo-soul component, we see SZA, Bilal, and Anna Wise on this thing, but we also get a really cool hook from CeeLo on one of the tracks. J-Rock even pops up and spits a great guest verse. The production on here is the main takeaway, as this is really well done from a musical standpoint. Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A Tribe Called Quest, Adrian Young, and Thundercat contribute beats, amongst some usual faces from other Kendrick Lamar projects. Let's also remember that this was a surprise midnight drop when it came out. It just kind of popped up one day about a year after To Pimp a Butterfly had come out. I think it says a lot about Kendrick Lamar that even his compilation album is this good. In fact, this washes most other hip-hop albums from 2016. Really impressive stuff. Number 4, his debut, Section 80. This was about as formidable of a start to a career as I could ever imagine, and Kendrick really knocked his first full-length record out of the park. He's young and hungry on here, but he's also patient, studious, and humble. His storytelling, which is one of his top qualities, has a very strong presence here, as do his conscious and social leanings. Kendrick really shines on songs like ADHD and Rigor Mortis, but especially on the song High Power, which I still consider one of his best songs. Section 80 is a loose concept album that addresses the social environment that he grew up in Compton, California, and he looks to the roots of how things got to that point, including how Ronald Reagan and the crack epidemic decimated the ghetto. He does some great storytelling from the perspective of a couple different characters and shows some real structural poise for such a young artist. I almost want to compare him to the way that Nas seemed like a seasoned vet and like a visionary on Illmatic, his debut, but I think that would be a bit extreme. But obviously that thought crosses my mind. Kendrick was a visionary early in his career, and it was on full display on Section 80. Number 3 might be a bit controversial, but I think Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is the choice here. I was really impressed with how personal and vulnerable Kendrick got on this record, and while it's fairly normal for Kendrick to get introspective, he really takes it to another level here. This is yet another concept album, this time about his personal journey through therapy, as he touches on topics such as trauma and infidelity. The record still has energetic bangers with N95 and Silent Hill keeping things upbeat, but the overall vibe here is a bit more serious and mature. There's a ton of passion on most of this record, which is technically a double album, though even as a double album, it's shorter than one of his other records on this list. We Cry Together is a song that simulates a fiery argument between a couple, and it's done over an excellent piano beat from The Alchemist. The concept of infidelity is touched on here as well, which is a strong theme throughout the album. The next track, Purple Hearts, might signify the resolution of the fight and kind of the battle scars that resulted. We even get a verse from Ghostface Killah on the track, which closes the album's A-side. Other vulnerable tracks such as Mother Sober, which features Portishead's Beth Gibbons, and the stunning Anti-Diaries round this album out. out. Anti-Diaries deals with transphobia, and Kendrick tells the real-life story of both his uncle and cousin, each of whom are transgender. This is just a further example of how Kendrick Lamar shows the intricacies of his personal life and how he's not afraid to let the listener in. And this is one of the main traits that makes Mr. Morale just so memorable. From a musical standpoint, the soundscapes here are the most impressive they've been on a Kendrick Lamar album in years, with production credits from Soundwave, Boy Wonder, Baby Keem, and The Alchemist, just to name a few. We waited 5 years for this album, and in my opinion, it was completely worth it. Number 2, Good Kid, Mad City. This might piss people off, but among Kendrick's top albums, it's almost a 1A and 1B situation for me. And that is just how good both Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly are. Now, both albums are great for very different reasons, but in the case of Good Kid, Mad City, this was the album that really rocketed Kendrick Lamar into stardom. So Good Kid, Mad City is a concept album about his life in his native Compton, and along the way he tells the story of a number of different characters and the various predicaments that come with inner city life. There's a heavy emphasis on gang violence, inner city politics, sexuality, and prostitution, and the record acts as a very particular, very detailed chronicle of everyday life in Compton. Every single song on here is fantastic and tells its own specific tale, and there's a diverse range of production and musical moods. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is spacey West Coast cloud rap with a catchy hook and a hedonistic vibe. Backseat Freestyle is upbeat, aggressive, and energetic and features an unforgettable beat from Hit Boy. Money Trees returns to a glossy, downbeat style, and J-Rock delivers a killer guest verse. Pharrell steps in and gives a great production job on Good Kid, and Mad City is an anthemic hood chronicle that features a great beat switch as Compton veteran MC8 joins the fold. Swimming Pools is a bit of a club banger that addresses alcoholism, while Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst is another song that is split into 2 beats but really features some of the most emotional and introspective lyrics on the record. The way that Kendrick wraps this story together in a non-linear concept is extremely impressive for such a young artist, and it shows just how creative and talented he is both through his songwriting and his lyrical delivery. The soundscapes range from glossy and lush to aggressive to melancholy to melodic. It's an extremely diverse record that keeps one central theme and makes sure that the listener stays engaged. And as I said, this could have very well been number 1, but I just have to give the top spot to Pimp a Butterfly. Kendrick was way more well-known and well-respected by the time the spotlight was on him to release his 3rd album, so the pressure was on. After a 2.5-year break, he comes back, and in my opinion, he outdoes what he did on Good Kid, Mad City. To Pimp a Butterfly is a hugely ambitious album that pays tribute to various African-American musical styles, over which Kendrick speaks aggressively about political and social issues. Musically, the album is rooted in jazz, funk, and soul, which is seamlessly mixed in with Kendrick's confident brand of West Coast hip-hop. Many musicians were brought in to help. The crafting of each track goes way beyond 1 or 2 producers sitting, putting together a beat, and looping it. The soundscapes are incredibly lush, as contributions from musicians such as George Clinton, Flying Lotus, Thundercat, Bilal, Ronald Isley, Pharrell, Pete Rock, Robert Glasper, Kamasi Washington, and others join executive producer Dr. Dre in a miles-long credits list. From the jazzy, poetic interlude For Free to the decadent funk of King Kunta, to the aggressive, almost tribal rhythm of The Blacker the Berry, to the synth-funk undertones of These Walls, to the introspective soul of Institutionalized, the musical conglomerations of this album are seemingly endless. All Right was an upbeat anthem for African-American youth that attempted to bring positivity following the killings of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and Eric Garner. The Blacker the Berry responds to the slayings in a more aggressive, direct, and inspirational way. Hood Politics takes cues from Good Kid, Mad City, and Complexion, A Zulu Love is a celebration of black culture that features a great guest spot from Rhapsody. This album is just packed with all kinds of influences and moods. The theme here is an overall celebration of African-American music and culture. Obviously, it's not something that I can relate to as much, but even to an outsider like me, the record is still inspirational, infectious, and socially conscious to a point that you really need to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to at least appreciate this a little bit. To top it all off is the conversation that he unfolds track by track that, on the last song, Mortal Man, is revealed to be a poem being read to Tupac, whose voice is spliced in and allows Kendrick to have a conversation with him. Tupac was a major influence for Kendrick Lamar growing up on the West Coast, so this is kind of a dream come true situation that Kendrick is bringing to life. How can you not love this album? How? It's just packed full of so much energy, life, and emotion, and it's just done over one of the most remarkable soundscapes that I have ever heard from any genre of music. In my opinion, it's easily the best hip-hop album of the 21st century, and it's probably the best overall album of the 2010s. It is 78 minutes long, so it's a lot to digest, but like many of the best albums of all time, I hear something new and I notice something different every single time I listen to it. This is truly a modern hip-hop masterpiece. So to recap, here's the list. Damn It number 6, Untitled Unmastered at number 5, Section 80 at number 4, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers at number 3, Good Kid Mad City at number 2, and To Pimp a Butterfly at number 1. That's my opinion, at least. Tell me what you think. I love to discuss. Kendrick Lamar is one of the most influential artists, hip-hop or otherwise, of the past 50 years, and his discography is simply a gift to music fans. If you haven't visited his catalog recently, do yourself a favor and do so, and let it serve as a reminder as to just how special of an artist Kendrick Lamar is.